Hello Cave Dwellers, I don't know about you, but I really have very little nostalgia for VHS tapes, and it's not because I wasn't there or I didn't enjoy them. I loved the experience of going to the video rental store at the weekend and picking one, or if we were feeling flush, 2 videos to rent out. I don't think our store let you rent out more than 2 at any one time. And then herring back on my BMX bike to watch them as quickly as possible. I loved all that. It's just that as soon as DVD came along, forget about it. I loved all of the benefits that format brought, and VHSs were consigned to the dustbin for me. And it's not really something we collect here at the museum. However, a small pile, this and a lot more, has been accumulating here, because when I see a VHS tape with something like Virgin Games ECES 91, as this one has on it, I think, well, this is probably a small part of video game history. This was probably looping in the background of an expo at some point, in this case ECES, and it may never have been seen since. So I thought I'd take the time out this week to make this tech nibble to capture all of these videos, and I'm going to upload them in their entirety to archive.org or somewhere similar. I'll put a link in the video description when I figured that out. And today, in this video, we're just going to skim through them, and I'll give you the highlights of some of these wonderful, and I've discovered some truly awful VHS tapes about video games, about setting up computers, and a whole lot more besides. So let's pop this in the player and see what we've got. I should point out that this is not a tutorial on how best to capture video. That's not an area of expertise I have, but I'm happy to show you the kit that I'm using. So what I've got on the table here are really primarily 3 pieces of kit that come into play. The first is, well, there's a VHS player on top of the telly. It's one of those players which is dual DVD and VHS, a later player, and it only gives me composite output on the VHS. It has S-video, but that only displays the DVDs. Now, if I was doing this in a professional capacity, then I would probably want a SVHS player with S-video coming out of the VHS. And I would probably even go to the lengths of cleaning the tapes to make sure there was no mold or dirt on them. So to stress again, this is not a how-to, this is just what I did to see what's on the tapes today. The signal from the VHS player goes into this. This is a Lumagen Vision DVI. It's an old piece of kit, but it's proven useful many times over the years here in the cave. It takes the signal and it deinterlaces it, and then it scales it for me. It then spits it out as DVI into my capture box, which is a StarTech USB 3 HD cap. Now that does accept composite directly into it, but I found that it just would not lock onto the signal for any length of time directly from the VHS player. And the Lumagen just sorted out all of those problems and gave me a solid picture. The StarTech device is USB 3, that plugs into this little mini PC here. There's not much to say about that other than it's running Windows 10 and I'm using OBS as the capture software. And then the only other thing I'm doing with this once I've captured it is I've got a filter which takes away any static and noise to give you a much more solid picture. So just to give you a quick example, here's some footage directly captured through that system, and you can see it's a bit wobbly, it's a bit noisy, and no doubt we could have taken some steps to clean that up in cleaning the tape itself, taking it apart, soaking it in IPA, all of that stuff that the professionals do. But this is how it came through for me. I then applied a third-party de-static and de-noise filter on it, which really cleaned it up nicely, so then it looks like this. And then as a next step, I tried applying AI upscaling to it, and that didn't work so well, especially in footage of some of the video games. It just didn't know what to do with the footage. It didn't know how to intelligently upscale it and what to do with it. So we rolled back, and we've just used the anti-static and anti-noise filter, and that's what we'll be watching today. We'd like to thank PCBWay.com for supporting our episode today. They aren't just about PCBs, although they do a tremendous job of that. They also offer CNC machining, sheet metal fabrication, 3D printing, and injection molding. If you're creating, then PCBWay.com can help you bring your project to life. Get an instant quote now over at PCBWay.com, and we thank them for their support. Let's check our first video then, and it's F19 by Microprose. And it has one of the worst voiceovers in VHS history.
Charge? Really, Don? Is this a game? Yes, sir. F-19 stealth fighter, sir.
Oh no, Don, we're moving. What do I do, Don?
Sir, could I suggest that you pull back on the stick, sir?
Oh,
Sir?
okie dokie, big fella. Oh no, I missed him. Never mind, here comes another one.
Mr. President, that's a Boeing 747, sir.
Sorry, Don. I thought I was in the Gulf for a moment there.
Mr. President, could you come back, please, sir?
Anything you say, Don.
So this is a promo tape for Microprose's F-19 Stealth Fighter, an excellent game from the peak of when Microprose dominated the simulation scene. And this plane is apparently being flown by President Ronald Reagan.
Goody, goody two-shoes. Tell Nancy I'll be back for tea.
Released in 1988 for DOS and 1990 for the Amiga and ST, this tape has written on it that it's an Atari ST promotional video specifically, so this is going to be 1990 onwards. The game itself was designed by none other than Sid Meier of Pirates fame and many other games, Railroad Tycoon, all of those other great games that he made. It's the successor to an earlier game, Project Stealth. It was created before the world knew what the new stealth fighter looked like, and they based the design of the plane on a model kit released in '86 by makers Testers. Unsurprisingly, the toy maker didn't have the inside scoop on US military skunk works, and it barely resembled the real stealth plane that materialized, the F-117A Nighthawk. That didn't for a second stop us from enjoying the game though.
Hiya, boys, it's Uncle Ronnie. Enemy at 9 o'clock. Bogey in my sights, brownie in my pants. Missile down his throat, got him. It's just like the movies.
The video's conclusion is that this flight sim is totally realistic. Yeah, just like that impression.
Here. It's all gone dark, and I'm late for my tea. This F-19 stealth fighter is out of sight. Don, can you hear me? I can't even play fetch with Lucky the dog.
The next tape we'll look at contains no less than 14 games. It really crams them in there. It's labelled Virgin Games ECES 91. Now ECES is the European Computer Entertainment Show, and in 1991 it was famously a bit of a flop. 2 weeks before the show they stopped selling tickets, they cancelled all the tickets, they reneged on promises of prize tickets for people, and they even advertised that the show had been closed. However, it still went ahead behind closed doors with just a select number of publications invited along. Nintendo and Sega didn't even bother going that year, and well, let's see what we missed out on this tape. Virgin Games were founded way back in 1983, and they went on to buy the budget label Mastertronic in '87, rebranding to Virgin Mastertronic, and that's why on the video there is a segment of their Tronics budget range on the showreel, including Double Dragon 2. That's a game that I had for my Amiga, and for some reason it crashed every time I loaded it, and it was a legitimate copy as well. I don't know why that never worked for me. There's a home port of the arcade game Ninja Warriors, which was on 3 screens in the arcade, so that took some work to crunch it down into one. And there was the pretty poor football game World Cup Soccer Italia 90. Of course, 1990 was a World Cup year. It was a great World Cup in Italy, but terrible football game.
The game comes complete with a ref who'll award free kicks, penalties, corners, goal kicks and throw-ins. Play a clean game or you could find the refs awarded you a red card and sent you off.
New releases on the video, however, include Snooker Simulation, Jimmy White's Whirlwind Snooker, from a time before Virtual Pool. Now, Virtual Pool was important in this genre because, as far as I'm aware, that's the game that introduced the ability to use the mouse to look around and to draw back the cue, and you could really whack the mouse forward to hit balls in that game. Before all that happened, in a game like Jimmy White's, you lined up the shot using a toolbar at the top of the screen. It all looked a little bit painful in the modern day, but it was a brilliant game when it came out, as was, I think, every game Archer McLean ever made.
Snooker recreates every aspect of the game of snooker. Inaccurately hit balls bounce out of accurately modelled pockets. Put swerve or spin on the cue ball, but remember to use plenty of chalk.
Coming in September, it says, and there's Jimmy himself blowing the chalk off of his cue. Amazingly, this game was also planned for the Atari Lynx, but that port was canned as the handheld flopped. Rollin' Ronnie. Now, this was one of many distinctly average platformers of the era, all of them screaming, "Look, we can do Sonic 2!" but I'm afraid a roller skating clown running errands just didn't hit the same way that the Hedgehog did.
Way through 9 levels of parkland, city streets, office complexes, and even the underground sewers to his final destination on the other side of town. Collect enough cash running errands for the inhabitants of this weird and wonderful game to earn enough money for a bus ticket to the next part of this balmy caper.
Shuttle was a hardcore simulation of NASA's space shuttle, and this would see release in 1992. Certainly wasn't the first shuttle game. The Apple II had Rendezvous, a space flight simulation. That was 10 years earlier. And even the Atari 2600 had a shuttle simulator in 1983. It's a machine that really captured our imaginations. I've never actually played this game, and I must. I owned the later Microsoft Space Simulator that came out in '94, but Shuttle always intrigued me.
Shuttle features breathtaking 3D graphics, realistic control panel operations, training missions, multiple help levels from novice to veteran, scientific and Star Wars missions, and multiple launch and landing sites. Shuttle, coming in September for the IBM PC, Amiga, and Atari ST from Virgin Games.
Also on the tape is the real-time strategy game Realms, and then text adventures are represented by the Magnetic Scrolls collection. This really was the death throes of the text adventure genre when they had to sex it up with multiple windows and artwork to try and appeal to gamers. And while it wasn't a fashionable genre in the 90s, there were still some gems to be found.
How sneaky can you get in the Guild of Thieves? The answer is very, to stand an earthly of qualifying for entry into this famed guild. All 3 games have now been enhanced to run under Wonderland's Magnetic Windows game environment and feature new graphics, animation, maps, and help windows.
Marble Madness makes an appearance, which feels really out of place in 1991, given it appeared in the arcades back in '84. But it would take 8 years to land on the Sega Master System.
Marble Madness rolls its way onto the Sega Master System early in 1992.
Wow. All in all, this video is a great snapshot into gaming in the UK in 1991. The games and the genres that Virgin thought were relevant to us, and the games and genres they thought would bring them revenue. From platformers to Sims to early first-person shooters like Corporation, this was released in 1990, but it's being promoted here for the upcoming 1992 Sega Mega Drive port. There's also a movie tie-in in Terminator, which looks a hell of a lot better than the later Terminator 2 game that we got on our home systems, and oddly this game was due for release after the second movie, so you could buy the Terminator game after Terminator 2 had been released in the cinemas. But that wasn't so unusual. For example, 1987's Untouchables movie finally got released on the Super Nintendo in 1994. We just kind of accepted that that's how it was sometimes.
Terminator will be available early 1992 for the Sega Mega Drive and Master System.
Our next video doesn't last long at all before we run into problems, and I was almost grateful that this didn't work because this guy gives me the creeps.
Well, I've been and gone and done it now. I finally joined the technological revolution. I've just bought my first computer. All I've got to do now is set it up.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, Dave, Jackie, you've just bought your first computer like me.
That's right, yeah.
Now, how do you feel about the prospect of getting it home?
Oh, a bit nervous.
What horror was about to follow before this broke, I could only imagine. Well, I thought I could only imagine it, but after a couple of rewinds and fast forwards, the tapes bumped past the bit where it got stuck, and then we had to endure the rest of the tape.
Yeah, I'm dead excited.
So you have no worries about setting it all up?
I didn't say that, John.
Jim?
I've used a PC before, but I've never actually set one up.
Well, good luck, old chap.
Cheers.
You're John, what's his name?
No, Jim. Jim, what's his name? And we'll be seeing more of Alan later.
This video was aimed at anyone who bought a PC from Dixon's or PC World or any of that same chain back in the mid-90s. Very popular high street stores here in the UK. I did indeed buy my first computer, or my first PC, which was a Packard Bell, from the high street. I think it was from Dixon's. I had Amigas and Amstrads before that. That was my introduction to the world of PCs, and then beyond that I would build my own. But that's how I got started. Thankfully it didn't come with this video. I guess some people may have found it helpful, but they could have cut down on some of the sarcasm here, and there are some really uncomfortable interactions. For example, this man, who just happens to be passing a house, peers in a window and sees someone setting up a computer and decides he'll just walk in.
Oh, sorry. The door was open.
Yes.
Well, I saw the computer boxes and I thought you might need a hand.
So you don't think I can put this together on my own?
Well, no.
Stalky Steve then remains for the duration of the video.
And you bought one of these? I'm impressed.
Do you mind if I get on now?
And we learn about things such as how to get online.
So how do you get on the internet? How do you find out about all this?
There's an icon marked World Wide Web and that takes you through the whole process.
Yeah, it costs money though, doesn't it?
Yes, I mean, you pay a fixed sum to the internet service for each month and then you pay extra as more time is used. See, but then after that, the world's your oyster.
So the service fee's the only charge?
Well, no, you pay for the phone call you're making, and that can mount up even though it's charged at local rate.
That can mount up.
And then a chunk of the video is taken up in promoting a premium rate service which you can phone if you need more help in using and setting up your PC. For example, in this scenario, they're unable to play Jeff Grammon's Formula 1 GP2 because I think the path is broken on the shortcut on the desktop. Better phone the premium rate number.
Fortunately, we've got an expert with us who can help us sort out this problem. Steve, what do you think's gone wrong, you being an expert?
Well, I mean, there could be lots of different reasons. It could be a disk cache error on the motherboard, or the SCSI port's not synchronized with the zip drive, or...
You haven't got a clue, have you?
And of course, by the end of it, everybody's an expert.
It's a gradual process. The more you use it, the more confident you'll become. So your phone call to PC Plus today could be, oh, where do I put my mouse? But in a year's time, your phone call could be, where do I plug in my virtual reality helmet?
Virtual reality on a Packard Bell. That's the dream. This next video was one of the worst in the collection, and it is certainly a candidate for a deep clean. Anyway, with a bit of post-processing, we can try and figure out what's on this tape, and it's movie-based games on an Activision promotional tape. In contrast to Virgin's video, which had the Terminator game on there, this contains 3 movie-based games, all released in exactly the same year as the cinematic release. They were all tied up to be released at precisely the right time, and this all happened in 1986. The first game is Labyrinth by Lucasfilm Games, and that was led by David Fox, who I was lucky enough to interview a few years back. It's in this game that David introduced the word wheel. That's a way of carrying out actions by selecting words instead of typing the actions in a parser at the bottom of the screen. It bears more than a passing resemblance of their later game, Maniac Mansion. It's a little slow-paced at times, but it's nice to see the origins of their later Lucas classics. And of course, it's always good to see Bowie. Howard the Duck. Considered one of the worst films ever made, and therefore it of course has its own cult following. This is just the way it is with terrible films. Like the movie, the game reviewed badly. It's a 4-level quest to find your friends and then take down the Overlord on some place called Volcano Island. Available across a range of micros, including the Apple II, C64, ZX Spectrum and Amstrad CPC. It's a bit of a stinker, and I don't think I'll be rushing out to try it. Thank goodness then for Aliens, an iconic film for all the right reasons, and a wonderfully moody game too. I had this game on my Amstrad CPC. It scared the life out of me playing it late at night with the lights off, but I must admit I never geared up in full marine gear to play it like the kid in this video is. Pick of the bunch on this tape is definitely Aliens for me. Let's see what's hiding on the next one. this is a video of its time, around 1985-86 at a guess. It's the Commodore PC-20 owner's video to help you get started. And long-time viewers will remember, I have a PC-20 which we've been tracing the PCB on because that was destroyed. We've been recreating the system board, and I can tell you now that that work has been completed and initial tests on our recreated board are good, so you'll see a follow-up video soon and hopefully we'll have that up and running. And when it is, maybe this video will come in handy. Certainly a very British video starring Tim Brooke-Taylor. He was a member of the comedy troupe of the Goodies, very well known here in the UK, and Joanne Campbell, who appeared in everything from The Bill to Bodger and Badger.
You still haven't mastered the technology of pouring boiling water over a tea bag yet.
It's a heady combination of humour and chapter animation screens created by someone let loose on the new titling machine at Commodore.
Endless.
This is an hour-long saga of a man unboxing his new computer, one of the earlier examples of an unboxing committed to film. And at times he makes me seem dynamic in my delivery.
Yep, here it is, my companion. This is more like it. Now where's my telly? A great business aid, the video. Now, where's my companion?
Very busy, are we, sir?
Things then take a twist when Tim's future self appears on the screen to guide him through how to use the computer.
Don't worry, this will all seem like second nature to you soon. But first, let me tell you a little bit about how computers work.
He gets down the basics of MS-DOS, formatting disks and moving files around. And then the fun really peaks when we go printer shopping.
Well, there are really lots of printers, but for the simple graphics and documents you require, there are basically three choices. Now, if you want very posh letters and high-grade documents, then this is the one for you. It's a laser printer and gives you a really smart finish to both text and graphics.
By the end of it, I feel more than prepared to finish my PC-20 series off. Thank goodness for Commodore. Lock up your daughters, Andrew Neil has been let out of his cage. This is the Sunday Times Guide to Windows, and the Windows in question is 3.1. While Andrew simply introduces the video in his post of Sunday Times editor at the time, it's the much-loved Fred Harris who presents the rest of the video. Fred was a staple of computer shows here in the UK. You might compare him to Stuart of Computer Chronicles in the US, I guess. He's of a similar ilk. But can Stuart do this? I think not. In this, Fred tells us how the inner workings of a computer are much like all of the instruments in a band. To be honest, I think he just wanted to use the budget to record some jazzy tracks. Bringing us back on topic is Dave Smith from Microsoft, who's done his best to dress for business, but I can't help but feel he looks like he's a blind date contestant.
Enabling people to get more done in less time. So just in the same way, for example, that we're all used to seeing road signs all over the world be the same, no matter which country we're in, so Windows uses the same idea to make the computer much easier to use.
Because Fred's involved, it's actually a really informative tutorial on finding your way around the operating system. Once the basics are down, we play some more saxophone.
But it really begins to swing when you add the high-powered applications programs.
And we get to see exciting new Windows applications such as Microsoft Excel.
So now that that's copied, we actually don't need Excel anymore.
No, that's right. We can actually get rid of Excel and get straight back to WordPerfect now, to where we were within our letter.
Then we play some more saxophone. And to this day, Andrew Neil has been roaming free. Let's round off our video captures for today, almost back where we started. It's another tape from Virgin Games, and this one's titled Floppy Showreel, February 1993, and it's got 3 games on it.
All right, let's see what we can see. I'll be back.
Enemy unit is approaching. Enemy unit is destroyed.
It's the new star!
Virgin Games, an entrepreneurial vision. Anticipating evolving markets, not afraid to reach out.
Американская фирма Transceptor Technology приступила к производству компьютеров «Персональный спутник».
The first game on this tape is KGB. It's an adventure game comrade, and it's a very good one at that, with really nice graphics and a plot set around the final days of the former Soviet Union. There was a CD-ROM version of this released a couple of years later, and that added video clips into the game, acted out by Donald Sutherland, and it was released under the name Conspiracy. But it is enjoyable in its original floppy disk form, without the razzmatazz of CD-ROM based multimedia.
My knowledge of KGB is essential to the success of my mission.
Reach for the skies, now we're talking.
The future of the war hangs in the balance. The cream of Germany's Luftwaffe and the aces of the RAF are locking horns for their most crucial confrontation yet, the Battle of Britain.
A combat flight simulator for the Atari ST, Amiga and MS-DOS. In 1993, the sun was starting to set on the golden era of gaming for 16-bit micros, but Reach for the Skies did everything it could to give you a good experience on a stock micro. It didn't demand accelerators or any expensive add-ons, and I for one really appreciated that. It zipped along, and it reviewed pretty well as a result. You could even watch a replay of your mission and review your dogfighting in slow motion from various camera angles at the end of the sortie.
Reach for the Skies will not be won or lost on the result of a single mission. It's long-term performance that counts. As a player, you can choose your role in the conflict, either pilot or controller. You can also choose your nationality, British or German.
The tape closes on a stone-cold classic. It's Dune 2 by Westwood Studios, and they would take the lessons they learned from making this real-time strategy game to go on and create the Command & Conquer series.
He who controls the spice controls the universe.
The movie Dune came out in 1984, but that really didn't matter because this was a classic game in its own right, and it created the template for RTS games that came after it.
When faced with a combat situation, you can set your forces in motion and concentrate on other aspects of the game. Or you can choose to closely control individual units and manage them to their best capabilities.
It was named Dune 2 because an adventure game based on the movie was made, then thought cancelled, but then it turned out it wasn't cancelled, so we ended up with 2 Dune games. Both very good in their own way and within their own genres, but I think this, Dune 2, is definitely my favourite. Well, if you've made it this far into the video, then you know how to set up your Packard Bell computer and get the most out of Microsoft Windows. I've watched too many of these videos today. It's an interesting style, isn't it? The way they've recorded these, certainly a style, I would say, of the time. But if you look at the Commodore PC-20 video and then the PC World video, there's 10 years between them, and they adopt the same kind of sarcastic humor that doesn't age very well. And they're obviously working to a budget, although they have got some big or medium-sized named actors involved in some of these videos. It's really interesting to watch. And like I said earlier, the videos in their entirety will be uploaded somewhere. Not quite sure yet, but when I figured it out, you'll find the links down in the description below. So you can go and watch all what is it, an hour and a half of how to make the most out of Windows in this example. Some of them are only 8 minutes long in total. So do go and check them out and let me know your thoughts on them. And if you've enjoyed it, I will make another pile of VHS videos as and when they come in. I'm definitely not throwing them out, and I'll capture them and we can all enjoy them. The Virgin videos in particular, I'm going to put them in my fake shop over there where I've already got some old W.H. Smith's promo videos. So I'm going to add them to that playlist, and then when people are browsing the games, they'll hear the promotions about those very games that they're picking up off the shelves in that room. Right, better get back to that Megatech now that parts have arrived, and you'll see that restoration finished up next week or the week after, just as soon as I can get that finished up. And I'll see you in the next video. As always, if you'd like to come and visit, head to retrocollective.co.uk when you can see when the cave is open, as well as the arcade archive. And you can come and, well, sit in the chair and I'll put the VHS tapes on for you if you really want. And if you really enjoy what I do, head to patreon.com/RMC Retro, where you can become an official cave dweller. Thank you everyone, take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. These are the names of all the wonderful official cave dwellers who support the channel and the museum, and if you'd like to join them, head to patreon.com/RMC Retro. And yes, if you're still there watching, I too once had to make an IT support video. Here's what little remains of it from 2003. Enjoy.